Hey, what's going on, guys? Booster Whips here. Today we're going to be installing the AEM intake on the Genesis G70 2022. I came here to the shop at Asian Motors. We're going to go ahead and get the install just because there's minor modifications that we got to do. We got to like trim a little bit of the diverter hose on the driver's side, so I didn't want to have any any issues or whatnot, so I'd rather a shop get it done. They're my trusted shop here, so we're going to be working with Ivan today from Asian Motors. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. First off, you want to do is go ahead and take off the stock air boxes, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I also went ahead and I'm gonna show you here now is on the AEM you have to add in these rubber hoses around. You got to do that manually, so I already pre-did it just to save some time, but that's one of the things you want to go ahead and also do prior so that you're saving time as well. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, the very first thing you want to do is go ahead and move the engine brace off, and you're going to do that on both sides. We'll do the same on the driver's side, and this is a 14 millimeter. That's what you're going to need, a socket. You can set those on the side. So we're removing the hose clamps here. On the driver's side. Take off 3 bolts off of the stock air box. We're removing the hose off of the turbo side. All these screws here, they're 10 millimeters, so you'll use a 10 millimeter socket as well as the one that's on the turbo side. You're gonna need a extension wrench there. Go ahead and take off this hose here. You can use some needle nose pliers or something flat to kind of take it out. This is really stuck on here because of the pressure and the clamp that's on there for an extended period of time. So if you wiggle it off, or you can kind of insert something to push this back, it will facilitate the process. Alright, the next thing you want to do is go ahead and add in the fittings on here. This one here is a 14 millimeter, so once you have it in there hand tight, you can kind of further tighten it.
Yeah, give it a key current.
And then this one here is going to be a 16?
18.
18. It's going to be an 18 on this side. So this one only applies to the driver's side. So what the manual says, basically you do hand tight and then you do 2 turns with the wrench. So that's a 14 here and an 18 on this side. And now we're gonna go ahead and transfer over the hoses. And again, this only applies to the driver's side. Same thing, you loosen off the clamp, twist and turn, and they come off like so. So there's one hose. So we're prepping the clamps here. You can tighten it with a flathead screwdriver or use an 8 millimeter socket to do so with your power tools. We're pre-tightening it, not super tight where it's going crazy. And then we'll tighten down once we're fully finished. So here's the driver's side. We already pre-hooked it up to the turbo side. And we're already test fitting the first box here. Again, you gotta have to add this by yourself. And we're positioning everything to move to the next step. All right, we're gonna go ahead and add the velocity sack, and it's being held on by 4 millimeter bolts. And you're gonna use a locking washer and a regular washer. The locking washer goes first, and then the regular washer goes right after. And again, these are 4 millimeters. And then on the hex bolts, which is a 10 millimeter, those are gonna be used to go ahead and put them on the actual housing here, and then onto the actual engine bay. right, so we went ahead and already put the secondary clamp on here, put in the box on here, onto here. One thing to know is make sure that these clamps don't touch the actual AC line. They're very close to it, so make sure you leave enough space so that it's not actually touching this, because this over time can puncture onto the line due to the heat transfer and the shifting and vibration of the engine. So be very careful to make sure you have the lines, the actual fittings on here separated. All right, so here's the 10mm bolts, which I covered previously. I'm gonna go ahead and position them, and then we bolt them down. Now we're gonna go ahead and tighten the clamp, like so. Now we're tightening the actual clamp for the one on the turbo side. You know, I need an extension on there. So on this hose here, you need to go ahead and change out the actual factory clamp. So you take that off and you use the one that comes with the intake system, which is this adjustable one here. And then we'll connect the hose here as well. And then we tighten on the clamp. All right, so here's the diverter hose, and this is the reason why you need to cut off just a bit. We'll go ahead and measure it, but it should be between a ½ inch to like an inch or so. But as you see here, it kinks since it's too long. So we have to go ahead and cut off a bit, and then we'll finalize that part of the install. All right, so exactly ½ inch. This is how much we have to end up cutting. You can also buy the actual hose, like a universal hose, and then do it yourself, so you're not breaking the OEM one. But I decided to go this route, so there's that. So you can see the kink is gone, right? So there you go. I'm gonna go ahead and put on the clamps back on. Fit in the filter. Again, you're gonna go ahead and pre-install here the clamp here. We'll go ahead and loosen this clamp to go ahead and remove this hose. And on the driver's side, we're doing the same thing, right? We already took off the 3 bolts to take off the stock air box. So as you guys can see, it's a little bit hard, a little tedious, but with some patience, you can go ahead and move it back. You can always use some type of pry tool to kind of help you and facilitate the process to push back. Using the same type of maneuver, kind of shifting forward and back until that clamp is fully off. Went ahead and loosened the actual clamp for the actual turbo down there. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that hose so that we are able to go ahead and remove the stock air box. So same thing on the passenger side. We already have it here already set up with everything you saw us do on the driver's side, with the couplers, the actual brackets here, down to the turbo side. We'll go ahead and tighten all this out. We'll go ahead and put the filter, and we're also mounting the heat shield here onto the actual chassis with the bolts covered on the driver's side. Same thing, right? So all right, one key note you guys want to go ahead and note to tighten the clamps that goes on the turbo side. It's a little bit tricky if you have the actual heat shield here or the box from the AEM, but you also got to take in consideration that If you don't put this on first, it's going to be also a little bit harder to maneuver to try to position this correctly as well. So a little bit trade-off. So we ended up doing is we added all this here, and then to do the clamps, we ended up using an 8mm swivel extension to kind of get on there. You can also do it from the opposite side out here if you have a small screwdriver, but again, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you can get it done with the proper positioning and the proper patience. So we're gonna finalize the install, adding the last filter on here, and then we're gonna go ahead and fire it up and see how it sounds. So after putting also the diverter hose for the passenger, we also had to do some trimming. On this one, you actually got to trim on both sides, about a 1/2 inch more or less on each side. Again, you want to go ahead and measure it. Don't take my word for here. So just make sure you start cutting until you see no more kinks. So we had to actually cut the passenger side as well. I've seen a few videos where they're not mentioning the passenger side, but we do have to do it. So and again, this is a Genesis 2022. I don't know if maybe there's a little bit difference on there. And key note is the orientation of the actual hose. You also got to go ahead and move it in this position here. Same thing on the passenger side. Make sure it's in this orientation. And that's it. That should finalize the install. We're gonna go ahead and fire it up and see how it goes. All right, here's the final complete install. Make sure you check all your clamps, make sure everything is good. You clamp down, and your engine brace, make sure you also put it back. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, comments, go ahead and drop them below. Thanks for watching. Until next time, Boosted Whips, I'm out. Have a very pleasant day, and God bless.